let's talk quickly about The Voice, because we know that it is your passion. It's now at a pivotal stage. It's leaving Parliament, it's going to the people. And there's been a lot of talk about the polling and the decrease in support generally, but we want to talk about the purpose of The Voice. Just very quickly, there's been many organisations that have been set up for First Nations people to try to help them. Why would this one be any better?
That's why constitutional recognition is important, because bodies have come and gone. And because of that experience, Indigenous Australians, when they met at Uluru with the Constitutional Convention, said they wanted recognition, but they wanted one that was a particular form. They wanted a mechanism that wasn't just about the symbolism, which is important, but they wanted a voice to government to be able to advance their interests. And I think a national voice that was elected by Indigenous people themselves, that would be able to advocate on their behalf in order to close the gap which is there. 8-year life expectancy gap in infant mortality, health outcomes, incarceration rates that mean that a young Indigenous male is more likely to go to jail than university. We need to do better than that. And the fact that there will be a referendum and Australians, I hope, vote yes in that referendum means that that yes vote will in itself, I think, lift up Indigenous people, will say to them that they are respected, but it will also give weight, I think, to the country. I think that Australians will wake up the day after and feel that the greatest country on earth just got a little bit greater.
Well, The Voice, the referendum can go either way. Do you think it's so important that The Voice is set up that regardless of the outcome of the referendum, it's important to actually legislate a voice so that it exists, even if it's not enshrined in the Constitution?
Well, of course, the former government had the opportunity to do that, and they didn't. Now Indigenous people have asked for this. This isn't something that is a government idea. It's certainly not my idea. It is something that has come from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people themselves after thousands of discussions and meetings and processes. So I'm just focused on the referendum. I sincerely hope that yes is successful, and I have faith in the Australian people. I think that when people focus on what this is about listening and about consultation and also about recognition, then they will vote yes.
And does a no vote then mean that you can't really legislate a voice anyway, because that would be going against the outcome?
Oh, look, I'm not going to get into the hypotheticals. I'm focused on a referendum that votes yes, that puts this change in place. And one of the things that will, of course, then happen is that there will be legislation. And when that occurs, I want to get as much consensus as possible across the Parliament so that there's very broad agreement about how it will operate. I think it will be like the apology to stolen generations. That was resisted. There were a range of arguments put about what the consequences of the apology would be, none of which were true. None of the negatives were there. It was an uplifting moment for the nation. And this will be even more so, because this will be something that the nation will own. The change will be owned by people, regardless of what way individuals will vote, and they will make up their own decision. And I'll respect, of course, you've got to respect the outcome of democratic processes. But I do think this is an incredible opportunity.
We're seeing increasingly shrill rhetoric around the debate on The Voice, and we're seeing misinformation creeping into that debate. Does that personally upset you or distress you or anger you?
I do find it really disappointing is the word that
Does it make
I'd
you mad
use.
though?
I think it's important that I don't engage in that way, because I don't think that's going to be helpful.
Do you have to hold yourself back?
Well, I have
Do you swear
to.
and curse in private?
No, well, I just think that for some of the arguments that have been put forward, which people know when they're saying it, isn't true. The idea that the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice is going to sit around and go, okay, where should the next base be for defending Australia? The people putting that forward know that that's not the case. And the people saying it might advise the Reserve Bank of Australia know that they're in a position of power, the people who I've heard use that argument, and they can't advise the Reserve Bank of Australia, let alone any group outside of this process. I think that with what's disappointing is that with positions of authority, you have a responsibility, in my view, to show leadership and to engage in a way that is worthy of the office that people hold. And Indigenous people have been so respectful. I do think this is a very gracious and generous request. This is the equivalent of walking into a room and putting out your hand to shake someone, which is the Australian tradition, a hand of friendship, and saying, good to see you, can we discuss some issues? And I think that that hand should be grasped. That is the way that I see this process, and I sincerely hope that Australians do.